Here, I've got one for you. I've got a really, really juicy one for you. A story that will break the resolve of the last silly holdout who still believes the government and the left are telling the truth and have their best interest in mind. This is the one. This is the story that you won't see on the news. Exclusive! Representative Markwayne Mullin, 2- and 3-year-old Americans died in Afghanistan due to Biden's failed withdrawal. All this distraction, all this wokeness, all the things going on in the world. Meanwhile, babies, American babies are dying, and you haven't heard a thing about it. This is on Breitbart. It's Hannah Blue putting it down on paper. A 2-year-old American and a 3-year-old American died in Afghanistan as a result of the Biden administration's failed withdrawal from the country. Rep. Markwayne Mullin, this is the Republican representative out of Oklahoma, whose team is working firsthand on the ground to save stranded Americans. He told Breitbart News on Saturday that 2- and 3-year-old American babies died. They died in Afghanistan. Mullin, who traveled to Afghanistan and whose team is working firsthand operating what he likened to the Underground Railroad to get Americans and legal permanent residents and allies out of the Taliban-run country. He told Breitbart News Saturday that the Biden administration failed. They failed to assist his team in getting people out of the country, which has resulted in U.S. casualties, largely unreported by the Biden administration. Mullin briefly described what his team is doing in Afghanistan, attempting to get the people Biden abandoned out of the country to safety. Many told him the State Department was not helping them. Quote, "So we put a team together really quick. We had arranged to get them even outside the airport," he said. Mullin explained most did not realize many of the people could not even get to the Kabul airport because there were 3 checkpoints that were charging between $500 and $1,000 to go through. So even to get to the airport for one person, it was $1,500 at the minimum. And you're talking about a country that didn't have any banking system, he says, explaining how his team essentially set up an underground railroad, getting people out of Kabul by transporting them to nearby countries in the region. His team has a full ground operation, operating 20 safe houses and 40 vehicles. And they've even been able, to move people out, almost every single day. Quote, "I mean, yesterday we got 3 Americans out and 4 Brits. The day before that, we got a couple," he explained, but the successes have not come without devastation. Mullin revealed that they've lost a handful of Americans, including a 3-year-old girl and a 2-year-old boy. And this, folks, this is what sickens me the most. The news has moved on. They've moved on. Where are all the headlines? We're going to be back in Afghanistan. Mark my words, we're going to end up back in Afghanistan. Because every day there are still Americans fighting to leave. Every day there are still Americans dying in Afghanistan. And how can an American, after they've lost everything, after this country has been taken over by the Taliban, how can they get past all these checkpoints? How can they transport themselves without groups like Mullin's group? But this group, these people, they've been stonewalled by Biden and his folks all along the way, screwed by the left. And as a result, babies, American babies, are dead. And people are still dying. They're still dying. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. He said the news isn't reporting it, which is actually why I'm reporting it to you here at American Reveille, because I haven't seen this anywhere on the news. Just finally seen an article on Breitbart, but I haven't seen it anywhere else. For instance, we had a 3-year-old girl that had a severe infection in her legs. This is horrible, guys. And we tried to get her out. We had her in Kabul. We tried to get her through the airport there. Her parents were LPRs. They're legal permanent residents of the United States, which means there are responsibility. Mullin said that the State Department would not take them in because the girl's parents were LPRs. And when we realized they weren't going to let her through, we took her out on the 31st of August and started driving her and her family across Afghanistan. They had to drive her across Afghanistan. They eventually got them to the border of Tajikistan, Tajikistan, where the ambassador told him that Washington told him not to assist Mullen in any way. You hear that? Who in their right mind, who in Washington sees a little girl with severe leg infections, a 3-year-old, tells her to kick bricks to go F herself? Won't help her. She eventually dies. This is Mullen talking. I said, "Excuse me? You can't. I'm an American citizen," because he said I wasn't traveling officially. And I said, "I know, I'm traveling on a blue passport. I'm not here officially. I'm not here in my official capacity, but I'm trying to get somebody. I'm trying to get an American out of a war zone, a war area. This 3-year-old baby needs medical attention. You're telling me someone from Washington told you not to assist me? Who was it?" He said, "I can't tell you that." That's what Mullen's reporting. This is a congressman. He's telling you they wouldn't help. The State Department told him no. They told another country to tell him no, and they couldn't tell him who, what, where, why, or when. Mullen said he replied, "If you don't tell me now, the next time you're going to hear from me, it's going to be in another capacity. That's the only threat because we're going to have to find out," he said, noting that the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, promised to have a hearing and investigation on the matter if Republicans take the House back. Quote, "So we may have to wait 15 months. We may have to wait 15 months, but we're going to find out," he added. Because they wouldn't help us get her out, September 10th, she passed away from septic. He said of the American child, this 3-year-old child, she passed away from septic. That was 8 days before. All right. That was 8 days before they could have gotten her out. They literally were there 8 days earlier and they could have gotten her to medical attention. But somebody at the State Department sentenced a 3-year-old girl to death. She passed away from septic. Her parents had to watch her die. We could have gotten her out. Her parents, he said, asked him not to reveal her name. He said they don't want anything to do with the U.S. because they feel like we abandoned their child, which we did. Not us, not the guys down there working, but the United States, because we could have got her out. We talked about reputation earlier, right? We talked about reputation, what other countries think of us. This is something that makes other countries look at us like we're disgusting. This is what makes people hate Americans. And the left is responsible. The left is in control of the government, and the government is killing people. The congressman said the State Department knows who the girl is. He also revealed that they lost a 2-year-old boy and his mother on the day 13 U.S. service members died from the attack at the airport, explaining he's certain they were killed at the gate. Have you heard about them? No. You hear about the 13 barely from the mainstream media and the left, but you don't hear about the others. And the State Department hasn't reported that they were killed at the gate, he said. He explained they were at the gate because they were going to pull them out. They refused to let them in. They refused to let them land. And Mullen said we were already supposed to have them out of that gate. She couldn't leave because they couldn't afford to come back. He said, noting that CNN reported they died in a rocket attack. Think about this, guys. All right. All the gates they told you about, the checkpoints, the Taliban checkpoints, charging between $500 and $1,500 to get across. So say they're $1,500 each. All right. You spend all of your savings. I don't know about you, but not many of us have $4,500 in the bank account right now. You spend all of it going through it and you can't turn back. You got to stand at that gate for hours, for days. Because if you go through the Taliban checkpoints, they might kill you and you'll never get back through because you have no more money. Die one way or die another. So you stand at the gate and you get blown up. You're hoping, you're praying, you're thinking America is coming for me. I'm an American. But instead, you die at the end of the blade. You die at the end of the explosion. You die because America abandoned you. It says she couldn't leave because they couldn't afford to come back. He said, noting that CNN reported they died in a rocket attack. He said it's a lie. He confirmed these were 2 American citizens and said the State Department knows because they were approved to pull them out that day. Every one of these people could have gotten out. It wasn't like maybe. We could have gotten them out. We were getting people out. And we could have gotten them out. It wasn't maybe. We had them in a position to get them out, and the State Department failed to help us. All they had to do was literally allow them to come in the gate, and we couldn't get them permission to come in. He explained that the Biden administration is not being transparent. And if the first time you're ever hearing about this is on this show, then that's proof to you that they're not being transparent. Among the other countless things they're not being transparent about. Quote, they're not telling the truth of what happened. They're not even telling the truth about why they pull out on the 30th, he said. Currently, Mullen and his team, they're still moving 65 Americans and permanent residents, providing transportation and housing to get them out of the country, to get them out of Afghanistan. Wow. Absolutely wow. This guy has everything against him. There's others besides him. All kinds of folks are helping get people out. They have everything against him, and they're still fighting against everything. They're fighting against the progressive left, the elites, the system, the State Department, Joe Biden himself. They're fighting to save Americans. God bless them, and we'll pray for them. We need to pray for these heroes. But this is the real story. This is what's actually happening. This is what's actually happening in Afghanistan. And this is what's actually happening in America. All right? This is what's actually happening in America. All the while they try to shove their woke Kool-Aid down our throats. All this wokeness is so important, right? Tree equity. Tree equity, folks. Tree equity. All this wokeness is so important. We're going to have space equity next. Next, they're going to say the moon. We need racial justice for the moon because the moon goes through cycles. And at certain times of the month, the moon appears to be darker than others. The moon's wearing blackface. The moon must be a white supremacist. All this wokeness. It's so important, isn't it? All right. All this equity, this BS equity, this mask for racism. It's so important. Reintroduction of racial segregation. That's happening in a lot of schools across the United States. That's a product of this wokeness. It's true. Look it up. Look it up. All this wokeness. It's so important. They say capitalism kills. They say capitalism kills. The normalization of LGBT ideology, not as its own community, but as the only community. All this wokeness, it's so important. They say capitalism kills. Let's think about that. Capitalism kills. They say capitalism kills while our almighty progressive leaders murder American babies. Let me say that again. While our progressive leaders, our almighty progressive leaders, hallelujah, murder, while they murder American babies and destroy American minority communities through Planned Parenthood. They say capitalism kills while our almighty progressive leaders murder American babies and destroy American minority communities through illegal immigration. They say capitalism kills while our almighty progressive leaders murder American babies and destroy American minority communities through public education. They say capitalism kills while our almighty progressive leaders murder American babies and destroy American minority communities in Afghanistan and through the actions that they take there. The Marxists distracted us with woke nonsense to divide us. Meanwhile, actual children, damn it, are dying because of woke progressive ideology. My name's James Lane. I'm a modern conservative, folks. I'm a little different than the old school ones, and I'm a little different than the new school ones, but I'd like to consider myself a modern conservative. And I choose capitalism. I choose capitalism over woke, progressive elitism. And I hope you will too. I really do. I really hope you will too.